welcome to another episode of Artist Spotlight. We have today, we have Fred Andrews, who is a film and television production designer. How you doing, Fred?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, sir. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Of course.
Start from the beginning. Like, where are you from, and what got you into this crazy world of film and TV?
Well, I'm originally from North Carolina.
Okay.
And
So
I was born in South North Carolina.
Yeah.
And actually in the middle of North Carolina. And I basically at a very young age, I had a real interest in horror movies to begin with. You know, the old drive-in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically was doing art on my own, but I was going to college as a mechanical engineer at Chapel Hill. And I had a scholarship. One of my work studies was with the theater department, where I would be drafting up, you know, the sets for the student theater designers.
Mm-hmm. And
that led me to meet a man named Lang Reynolds, who is now head of theater at Kentucky University. And Lang was like, "You're very young. You should go to New York and be an artist." Mm-hmm. So I did. And I went to New York and I went to grad school at Parsons to be an illustrator and a sculptor. And I liked sculpture better. Mm-hmm. And one of the things about that is then technology was changing. I loved monsters. I loved horror movies. Mm-hmm. I couldn't make monsters or puppets or, you know, anything like that really in New York outside of like a theater kind of thing. So when I graduated, I literally just packed up my car and I drove out west to Los Angeles in 1990. And that was really kind of fantastic because I didn't know what I was doing. I knew I wanted to make movies. Mm-hmm. I knew that I wanted to do something really cool, and I couldn't do it back east. At the time, you didn't have school, you didn't have YouTube. You know, no one was really teaching anything outside of broadcast television. Mm-hmm. So I literally ended up, of all things, maybe being naive, there was a magazine called Film Threat Video by Christian Gore, who's been on independent Sundance Channel and everything with his game shows. And he put his number in the back of the magazine. And so I literally called him from a payphone, which your audience might not know what that is, but you put a quarter in it and you got to stand still in the booth. So I called him and I said, "Hey, man, I want to make movies like what's in your book." And he literally gave me a list of telephone numbers. The funny thing about that is I thought at the time, like, man, this guy knows everybody in LA. And really what he was doing is there was a resource guide called 411. And the 411 had phone numbers for every kind of production resource in filmmaking. Mm-hmm. I didn't know this, but now I had phone numbers to shops, to set shops. And I honestly started just shopping around, myself, what I could do, how I could draw, the thing that I could figure out problems. Mm-hmm. Again, so the engineering and the art was coming together. And I did a myriad of things. I started in special effects makeup, sculpting, learning to make molds, then scenic painting, and then going into building and construction. Mm-hmm. And then from that, it really kind of, it was a good time. It just started to explode. I would take anything that I could get. And the more I did it, the more I loved it. And you learned along that way. So it was, I just loved it forever. And every kind of genre, it's just being able to do that is fantastic. You know, I come from a family of doctors. They save lives. It's like I sell soap. You know, I entertain people maybe for a half hour, an hour, but that's still, it's not a consequence. But as an artist, as a creative person, it's really a way to production design. I've found, and I've stuck in production design now for over 30 years. And that's a way where everything that I've learned, everything that I've read, everything that I've seen, every place I've ever traveled, all the different people that I've met, you're able to apply that by creating a world, by creating an environment, and by working really closely with the writers, the executive producers. So
give us an overall view to the layman what a production designer's job is and supposed to be.
The art director works for the production designer. Art director makes sure that the vision of the production designer is carried out within the art department, which means that's the sets, that's the following up with the other departments, the lighting, the makeup, the wardrobe. What the production designer does is the entire world, everything visual. If it's not the physical camera itself and it's not the actor, falls under the responsibility and supervision of the production designer. So everything from the color of lights that you're using, the locations that you're shooting at, how you're going to shoot within the schedule. So you're very important in scheduling. You're basically spending all of the money. Every decision visually that is made by a production designer affects every department. You are the highest technical position in filmmaking, period. Film, television. So it used to be an above-the-line position, which means it's on par with a producer.
Right.
It is since, because when it unionized, it's since dropped below the line. However, that distinction is still, I have a counterpart called the line producer. The line producer is responsible to the studio, to the financiers for managing that money. And I kind of say that, look, most relationships with most line producers and you've got to be, communication's key. You've got to be on the same page. But really, they're responsible for making sure that I am spending the money in a way that we're going to get the most bang for our buck. And then taking into consideration actor availability with the ADs and everything. So it's all about prep. I start on a show. It doesn't matter, television. I've done a lot of television when my children were younger. They're just getting ready to go off to college. So I was fortunate. I stayed in town. A lot of great shows. I've never been on a bad show, knock on wood. I'm thankful for that. Very blessed. But I'll start before a director. Like if I'm doing a pilot, I'll start before the pilot director. I'll go pitch a show with the showrunner. So I will provide what the show will feel like to the studio to go ask for money. Lethal Weapon, it's a huge show. That was about $6 million an episode. It's a giant network show. Tons of stunts, all of this planning. To even sell that, to convince studios to give you that amount of money to make something that expensive, what they see comes from me first. So I'm really responsible for interpreting the writer's vision, the show creator's vision, or with each individual script, coming out and making sure that follows all the way through, so you have consistency in the visual, aspect of it. So I have to work with every other department head, with the cinematographer, with the costume designer, the makeup designer, the lighting, the gaffer. Everybody has to get on board. But what I do is I give a plan from the beginning of what the rules of that world is. Exactly. So, really defining what our story is about, and hopefully all of that interprets what the writer wants and also helps bring out our actors, really stand out more. Because you want to be able to, when you get clever about it, you want to be able to direct a viewer's eye, whether it's negative space or it's lighting or something. And again, those words on the page are really what's coming out of the actor's mouth, the actor's selling that. Right. So everything needs to, gel to be able to really focus in on, what's important, which is, again, the written word and how it is. So it's a great job.
Fred, how'd you adapt to that? Because here you are, this artist, and coming from a makeup background and CAD and everything like that.
What kind of prepped me for that was really being able to, I started doing comics on the side. So I started writing comics and drawing comics. I started that in college, doing independent stuff, and then coming out working for Malibu Comics. I also, at the same time, branched out and was doing animation. I literally lied my way into an animation job, but I kind of taught myself that. The animation director was great. It's for a movie called Cool World. His name is Jules Marino. And he's like, you've never animated a day in your life, but you're naturally really great. He's like, so you have the job.
Wow.
And it was really, it was a fantastic moment, because I was like, no, I haven't, but this is fantastic. I thought, why not? I would just try it. So the sequential storytelling of being able to plan out a scene in animation on what used to be called an exposure sheet, an X sheet. So you're literally how many frames the animator where your key poses are going to be. And when you are writing a script for a comic book, and then you are laying out the page layout of the comic book, how many frames, how many pages, is it a double spread? Are you doing something? That literally starts to force you to think in edits, to think in cuts. Sequentially, what am I seeing?
Right.
And again, nothing is ever shot in order.
Right.
So to be able to isolate a written word and then see it visually, how is that going to lay out? That's really, that's really probably where I trained. And then I did everything. I'm one of these guys, like I said, I worked, sweeping up, carpentry, painting, any job I could get. I'm like a poor boy from North Carolina. So, work is good. Right. But on that, it's like you meet people and you work hard and you learn. If you pay attention. And that's one of the things that, thankfully I have good education, but being able, how do I want to apply that? And so it kind of grew. Makeup was one aspect. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed painting. I enjoyed every part of filmmaking, but it's something to actually really have my entire vision come to life. What I saw when I read the page or had talks with the writers, the production design job was one that affords me that.
Right.
So
right.
I can't do everything myself. It's too large.
That's right.
But what I can do is, again, I can be a good manager and an effective communicator. By doing all the different things that I've done, it seems like I just got bored, but it's very useful. Again, there is no such thing as a bad job or bad experience, because I can then apply that to how I can communicate with a million different people. I have 360 people on average per episode of 1 hour episodic TV for network. They have to know and understand what I'm asking for the same. They all have to be on the same page.
That's right.
That's a lot of different people that you have to be able to effectively communicate the same idea to.
Exactly.
And however you have to do that, sometimes it's through a picture, sometimes it's through a conversation, or both.
Yep.
You have to be able to do that quickly and effectively and stand by it. So, answering questions and being responsible for your creative choices, that's something that, look, you have to have confidence in being able to do that as well. But it is a team. It's a team effort. And so it's really communication. Is that, design is, it is a choice, a stylistic choice, subjective choice. When you stand by a design, it has to be consistent. This is why you need a production designer. You need someone to shoulder the responsibility for this. These are the rules of this world, and follow all the way through. Because if you're not consistent, then it's a mess.
That's right.
Then then it falls apart.
Right.
When you're falling apart, you're not paying attention to what the words are saying. You're not paying attention to the story.
That's right.
Now you've just brought the audience out. And that is something that's not effective.
Right.
And look, film's collaborative. Film, TV, it's all merged together, which is fantastic. I mean, streaming is the best thing in the world because you can tell these longer stories. You can learn a character by it. But anybody, I think, that wants to go into film, I mean, look, they think the glory is in like being a director, or the glory is being in, I'm an actor or I'm a producer.
Yeah.
The glory is it's a collaborative medium. And that's the deal, is that if you want to do something in a vacuum, you can make art in your garage by yourself and for the rest of your life and nobody see it.
Yep.
But if you want to grow artistically and creatively, then you need to be creative. People need to be around other people, and they feed off of each other because, you'll start with one idea. Like I'll start with a plan. That's part of my job. I come up with a plan, the plan for the entire show or the entire episode, how we're going to do it, how we're going to do it on budget. And then most of my initial meetings come down to everybody tearing that plan apart. But you see, that's the starting point.
Right.
We'll still end up doing about 80% of my plan to begin with, but that 20% that changed accounts for other things I either wasn't aware of or it's better.
That's
because ultimately the thing is that, like, look, I get to spend other people's money to make something I see in my head come to life in 5 days, 4 days. I mean, it's an incredible short amount of time. That's fantastic. I mean, that's really that's a dream job, to have. And so it's very, very satisfying to be able to make choices, and then you don't ever really fail because you only fail if you stop trying and you don't try it again, try something new, because then it's practice. So you get to continue growing, and all of a sudden you turn around, you've got a career, and instead of, it's a profession. And really it was something that just it's so much fun. You learn everything in my position. You learn all aspects: post, color timing, writing, directing, producing, executive producing, studio. I mean, you are exposed to everything. It is probably one of the best places to shadow if somebody wants to get in, to read up on, because you have to be in contact with every single aspect of a production. I get more satisfaction creatively as a production designer because I really do have a major influence on the entire world. And if you're doing a film or you're doing a 10 episode, 24 episode season, you've created a world that your characters are now playing in. And the whole tone of that is something that, it's what inspires people. Star Wars was something for me that was, wow, you'd never seen that as a little kid. I'm like, I want to do that. Planet of the Apes. Man, here's a planet of the apes after a nuclear war. That was awesome. So, I mean, and you read that in 2.5 seconds on film, and that's the thing. And you don't have to do it verbally. I have a medium at my disposal where 24 million people a week tune in to see my art. That's look, I mean, that's pretty fortunate.
In your job, does that become a thing where you're just kind of okay, I'm comfortable in the horror space and the tone and the creepy tone?
That's a fantastic question there, because the thing is that, you know, you definitely get labeled when you show your work, portfolio, website, whatever. I mean, again, I have photographs, finished lit sets of probably over 12, 15,000 environment, sets, location. I mean, it's a lot to call from.
Yeah.
You've got about 2 minutes with a person before they don't want to hear you talk anymore.
Yeah.
You start to lose them. So,
yeah.
But the problem is when you go into interview to speak with your executive producer or the writer or the director, depending, I mean, feature, that happens a lot more, where, you know, you'll go in, they have an idea in their head. They're not going to see their idea in your book, right? But what they have to see is that, oh, okay, you could accomplish their idea.
Right.
Because of that, my point is, because of that, you do get kind of labeled where, oh, well, that's the period piece guy, or that's the guy that does, you know, I did pretty, like, look, I came out of action. You know, horror was something because it taught me, like, these are the pieces. You make the pieces to put it together, and that's how it's really done. You know, the behind the scenes stuff. That was fantastic with the makeup stuff. But then I wanted more. So, you know, with action, with stunts, with, you know, I love that. And I love blowing stuff up and just really being able to do that. And it looked real and spectacular. But then I did a really popular, you know, girl show, Pretty Little Liars, super successful show, a lot of devout fans to that. And, you know, it was like, okay, now he's doing little girl bedrooms. But at the same time, I tried to bring in stuff that was a very noir aspect, you know, like lots of blinds and always, like, you know, kind of like an outsider, like, let's say, like a stalker POV, and really kind of bring Alphaville and all of this, like, you know, literature stuff into an environment where you had this perfect Stepford situation, where the girls lived, and then they were always put in jeopardy.
Right.
And that was something that, you know, again, that was a cable show, successful, but it was a great place to really be very theatrical. But what it has done, because like I said, I'm old, is it's the kind of thing where I'm known for, I do really, really pretty, like really like concrete glass, streamlined, pretty stuff, you know, teenage stuff, or I do gritty action cop stuff, you know, like shoot 'em out, like car wrecks, like big stunts, you know, people jumping off of buildings, huge explosions. So, however, I've done sci-fi, I've done horror, you know, period pieces, but I'm not going to be the first one that they're going to go to for, like, you know, oh, great, so we have, you know, Game of Thrones, and it's set medieval. They're going to go for a different designer to begin with, who has done that. That's kind of unfortunate, but I think that just like any other creative, if you want to push yourself, then you will find an opportunity to do something to show that you can do that. But to get there, it's, you know, everybody's got a cell phone now. So it's like, you know, I was shooting stop action animation on ends on 8mm camera of my grandfather's silent thing, because I wanted to do, you know, claymation. And now you can take a cell phone and you can make a movie. You can take a cell phone and you can make a YouTube channel. There are outlets. You're not restricted anymore. And you really can. It's awesome. So that is just a way to practice and deliver distribution of that. I mean, even to get fans, you've seen it with social media. I mean, your channel, I mean, it's the information's there, and the opportunity is there. It's really whether or not you want to put the work in.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
And that's the deal. And I think that, again, that's a personal thing, but there's so many different things to try. I guess that's what my point is. It's really, you know, you start by just having a love of storytelling, and storytelling is sequential art. Film works, video works, digital works, because it's a series of pictures being run back to the person live or you know, recorded, tricking your eye that it's actually moving at the time. And that's really what it is. So it's not about what you build or how big. It's not about a budget limitation, because you never have enough zeros. There's never enough zeros. There's never enough time.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you have 80, 100 million, you know, $1 billion, or you have 5.
Right.
It's literally, it's the same constraint. But what it really is then is it challenges you as a person starting out and a creative. It doesn't have to be done a certain way, but what do you want to see? And so you're able to actually go out there and start just showing what you want to see, you know? And I think that's, like I said, I think that's just a great thing of storytelling, you know, and even being a fan of storytelling. I'm in a van all day. So
Okay.
I'm scouting.
Gotcha.
My average day is about 14 is a short day, but 16 to 20 hours a day. I'm what you call an on-call employee, meaning I don't have set hours. I report to myself. I'm there as needed. Something happens. It doesn't matter. I'm there. Somebody needs an answer. I'm there. Somebody needs something. So I have a support staff. Again, you're only as good as your team. I have switched over entirely to an iPad Pro, 1 terabyte, and I do draw. Here's what I do. While I'm running my entire office out of a 15-pass van. Normally, if I'm lucky, I'm in like a people mover kind of vibe. It's a little bit more comfortable. So, you know, I have a constant cellular.
I'm trying to paint a picture of what you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I'm literally sitting with the tablet. You know, I'm talking, I'm having, because everything is decided in the van. You've got the producer in the van. You've got the director in the van. You've got the locations in the van. You've got the AD in the van. And that's who, we're deciding on the locations. We're deciding on the schedule. We're just talking about budgets. We can't afford that. We can't. While that's going on, I am giving the information back because I'm always got 3 shows at a time. I've got the 1 show we finished, the 1 show we're shooting, and the 1 show I'm prepping. And then I've got the 4th show. It's like a leapfrog. Once that train starts rolling, it's all about prep. I do all the prep. So as that train, you've got to keep that train rolling. I'm making a circle, and that's a train wheel. Sorry, I talk with my hands, but I'm constantly. So I will take pictures from locations, and I will literally draw on the pictures. It's disseminating information very quickly to people as quick as possible. So I have set designers that are back. And I'm like, you know, my set designers, whether they're pencil, there's not as many, you know, if they're on paper or if they're digital, depends on the project. I'll use both. But a lot of times it's like, look, here's roughly what I want you to draw. Make a white model really quick. Send that to me. I then I'm showing, hey, look, so this is what I'm going to build for here to help us because we can't afford to shoot at this location, but I can recreate part of that location. Those are the decisions going on. So I have to have the constant back and forth. The iPad's been lighter. It's been dependent. I break them. They're expensive. But so get Apple Plus Care, or Care Plus, or whatever it is. It's literally, I just got my last one until 2021. But it is something where, you know, the camera used to have to develop film and all this. I take a ton of pictures. It's all about nothing, visual information, and then my ability to be able to write on that information or draw from it. It's getting out quick. Production art for presentations. Because, again, I have every department behind me asking for questions. They need answers to like what's coming up, what's this going to be like. You know, look, if you're a wardrobe designer and she's gone out, she's having made this, you know, beautiful like red cocktail dress, and I put them in a yellow environment. You know what I mean? That's not going to really make the actress look very good. It's going to be harder to light. Those kind of decisions. You avoid all of that by being the central hub of communication to all the other creative technical positions. And that's really, so I'm constantly giving out information as it comes, answering those questions, and at the same time planning and then giving people heads ups. So it's literally, I'm buried in you're looking for, your tools are basically visual point of references on everything. Got it. Yeah, and not only that too, but also like when you're scheduling and coordinating. So like if I'm at a physical location, and there's something that might hold up the production, like do we need to build a ramp to get a crane up here? Maybe that's not the right location, but let's say that it just so happens that this is one where we have to do something difficult like that. Then I need to let my department and then the other departments know that this is coming up because it's going to have to be budgeted. Because the producer is then going to ask, literally, what's this going to cost? And so that information has to come in. And then I have to be able to, you know, best educated guess or estimate, but, you know, experience does a lot of things. I literally give that because it's up to the line producer to weigh whether, you know, do we shoot location? Do we change our schedule? You know, do we cut the cast down? How do we spend that money? And how much money are we seeing on the screen? If we're spending a lot of money behind the scenes to get to a place, that's probably the wrong decision. Because you want all of that money to show on screen. So, and that's kind of, you know.
How do you seek out new talent to develop and nurture? What catches your eye?
When I came to Los Angeles, nobody really wanted to share information. And that made no sense to me. So I definitely don't think that way. And again, I think it's a security thing. When you hit a certain age or a certain point of career, maybe it's not an age thing, but where you realize that it is a collaborative thing and that creatives need creatives, and there's not that insecurity about my skill level. It becomes a thing where then a whole new world opens up. So I actively seek out, and then if there are people who contact me, I mean, look, I answer my Twitter, I answer my Instagram, I give people, you know, an email address, a list of questions, whatever. What are the resources? How do you do this? And then I look over portfolios all the time. Fit them. I'll go through, you know, I'll do the professional portfolio review. I'll do that at, you know, AFM. I'll do that for UCLA. Whoever will ask, because it's something where I want to see what that generation, which is my children's generation, what they're coming up with. And again, to me, I mean, it's a little selfish, because then if I can mentor someone or bring them in, even as an art department PA, or expose them to an internship, depending on who I'm working for, then that person underneath me can ask me all the questions in the world. And, you know, more than likely, they're probably going to work with me. And now I have someone with a lot of talent that's doing things the way I like to do it. You know what I mean? And then it goes on. And I'm very, I'm very supportive of that. I've had people start as PAs that are producers now who've worked for me. I've had, I mean, like great. There's a lot of, I'm into like a lot of young women coming up, and they're really like, look, they've got hustle coming up, and it's kind of a thing. And I love to see them go on, and it's great, because I mean, honestly, it's like I just did a job for a student of mine. She was a student of mine 15 years ago. Literally, and I mean, that's not why I do it, but I'm saying, when you put that out, it's something that, you know, look, I love filmmaking. I love storytelling. So any opportunity is great. And it's kind of like, you know, if you keep going back, if you don't embrace that somebody can have a new way of doing something and a new idea, you're cutting yourself off from learning and actually coming up with something even better in your own head. If you really want to, you know, like make film, tell stories, you'll find a way to do it. There isn't a right way to do it. And you can reinvent a better wheel. And like I said, getting older in my career and stuff like that, to seek out new talent, I want the better wheel. I'm open to it. It's not something that threatens, you know, me in that sense. So, you know.
Exactly. I love it. We've gone over technical. We've gone over, you know, the different departments in the job roles. But leave me with one thought, you know, just one nugget to someone who not maybe just wanted to be a production designer, but who wants to, you know, fit in that world of film and storytelling.
Tell your story. Find a way. You've got a phone. You've got the internet. Whether you can draw, whether you can't draw, tell a story. It doesn't have to be a long story, but it's something from inside of you. And that's really, artists make art because they have to. So there is a way to do it. And that's the thing. I have seen people go out and been involved and helped. You will attract to you. If you have that energy and you're open to learning and you want to do that, don't ever give up hope. It will happen. It's a very, very small industry. It's a very small world. And it's something, so if you just go out and start telling your story with nothing, just tell it. It's going to come. People are going to come to you.
Fred, have a good one, man. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. You take care, man. Thanks again, Lewis. We'll talk to you later.